Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I've got a pile of guitars that I've been trying to get to and just kind of clear out of my shop. None of these repairs are very difficult, so I'll try to work on some of these jobs in between projects over the coming weeks. Up first on the bench, I've got this 2006 Made in Mexico Fender Strat. I really like the looks of this one. It's got a really pretty 3-color burst on it, and I love the contrast. It's super yellow in the middle. It's got a couple of things that are kind of wrong with it, and we'll check those out. I got this thing for a good price. I try to find most of my stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and of course I like the thrift stores, but this was a Marketplace find and I got it for a good cash deal, and I was able to check it out, which is always my favorite way to buy guitars. The main things that I look at when I buy these things are the straightness of the neck and the condition overall. This one's got one ding on it, and it's over here on the side. Other than that, it's in pretty good shape. It's got a little dullness here on the contour where somebody laid their arm a lot. It's got some grime on the pick guard and some spots. But the main things that I noticed in terms of what it needs, of course it needs some tightening of the strap buttons. These things are loose, and I don't know if that can even be tightened or if I'll have to dowel it. And then I noticed that the tone knobs were a little wonky. This one just keeps on spinning, and I'm hoping that's the knob and not the pot, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, these things can be had for 300 bucks or less, and they're a heck of a steal at that price. This one needs absolutely no fret work. It's got a great neck on it, nice maple board. Actually, it kind of looks like a maple one-piece neck to me. And being a 2006, this one's got the wider frets than some of the earlier models, and I really like this neck overall. It's got a good set of tuners on it. Some of them are fairly tight, so I might need to do a little bit of lubrication and adjustment on those. But the very first thing that I always like to do is check out neck relief. Now when I'm in the field, sometimes I'll just check it out by, putting my fingers on the frets and looking at the guitar from the side and just making sure I see a little daylight around the 8th fret. But now that I'm back in the shop, I want to actually do a measurement. Easiest way to do that is put a capo on the 1st fret, then I can get out my feeler gauge. I'm using a 10/1000 feeler gauge at the 8th fret, and it doesn't quite have the amount of relief that I would like to see. So let's figure out what gauge of strings these are. Alright, that's a 10-46 set. It's possible somebody could have tightened the truss rod, so I'm going to see if I can let it out just a little bit. Yeah, that's perfect. I think I maybe took an 1/8 of a turn out and it's perfect now, so I'm not so concerned about the neck. By the way, I'll post a link to these if you're interested, but I got these T-handle hex wrenches on Amazon a while back, and you need a 3/16 for a Mexican Stratocaster. The T-handles are just great for reaching in and not fooling around with a tiny Allen wrench. So before we get inside, let's take a look at some of the specs on this thing. Like I said, it's a solid body. I'm not sure if there's a veneer on top, but it sure looks like a one-piece. Let's flip it over and just check. Yeah, this looks like a really nice body. Unless they veneered the top and the back, I can say this is probably a one-piece body. Like I said, 21 frets, kind of a medium C profile to the neck, standard Fender tuners, the 2-post tuners. I can tell from here, full-size switch. I'm sure these are CTS pots, switchcraft jack, stamped steel saddles, full-size tremolo block, blank neck plate. Nothing at all in the back of the headstock. The serial is on the front of the headstock. Silver logo, 3-layer pick guard on the front, 1-layer back plate, standard Fender Strat buttons, and I think we can't really tell much else about this until we open it up. Oh, but I will mention full thickness body. Now I'm going to try to save these strings, so I've got a capo up here. I'm just going to loosen them up and then we can take off the neck. It's kind of a good sign when you start taking things apart and you see little bits of plastic come out from underneath the screws. That means that this neck and this body have probably always been attached to each other, and I'm the first one to take it apart. Now this is pretty common to Mexican Stratocasters to have a part number, or even that might be a serial number of the neck. Then there's an inspection sticker. Usually you see a date code in here. Don't see one on this one, but you do see the metal end of the truss rod. Alright, we need to get at this pick guard to figure out what's going on with this pot. Alright, well inside here I'm also seeing everything I would expect to see on a Strat of this vintage. You see the Oak Grigsby switch, the CTS pots, double ceramic bar magnets, the white, yellow, white wiring. Those look completely original and untouched to me. Even the masking tape looks right. Inside, it looks like there is some shielding paint, but it's covered in gloss. There's also a part number inside the body, and we see the familiar CNC hole pattern with the 3 circles and then the 1 in the neck. I'm not sure what you'd call this pickup routing. It's kind of an SSH, but the middle is kind of oversized. It would not accommodate a neck humbucker. There is a ground strap inside the cavity, so the body is grounded to the pot. Full aluminum shielding on the pickguard. There is a date stamp here on the pickguard itself. There's some faded date stamps here on the neck pocket and the body. Maybe an inspection number or something. It's all kind of blurry. And then you'll see the wax pencil marks sometimes under the pickguards. There's a couple here. That's probably somebody's initials, and there's 3. All the pots and the switch date to 2006. I can tell from here. Let's see what's going on with this. Okay, it's just the knob. The knob is spinning on the shaft, so I think I'll just have to replace the knob. I'll clean these up while I'm in here, and we'll test out the electronics before we wrap up. But I'm happy that I don't have to do any rewiring. This is something that happens sometimes on these split shaft pots where the 2 halves of the split get squeezed together, and that's what's going on with this one. And I'm hoping they haven't been squeezed enough that if I try to pry them apart a little bit that they're going to break, but they do need to be pried apart a little bit. I think that's what's causing the knob to spin. Now I'm going to have to get a screwdriver. All right, let's clean whatever that is off of the pickguard. I'm going to go ahead and reset all the knobs too. Perfect. No more spinning, and now they all line up properly. Just a little bit more cleaning while I have access to the pickups. All right, after everything's been cleaned, I want to go ahead and tighten up the strap buttons. All right, it does tighten without having to dowel it. And that one's already tight. And then next, I'll want to do a little cleaning inside here. So I'll put a little bit of deoxit inside my pots. You can use this brush variety and just access the pots through the slot in the side by the posts, or you can use the spray variety. Either one of them work. And then I'll also brush a little bit on the contacts for the switch, and then we'll put everything back together. Something else you could end up having to dowel is the pickguard holes, but luckily all these were tight. I am going to take off the jack plate just to make sure that nothing's going on under there. Well, it looks pretty good under there. I will say it's not a real Switchcraft jack, it's just a copy. Alright, with the pickguard and the other hardware back in place, let's move on to mount the neck. You know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and clean up those neck holes a little bit. The screws bite into the wood more than I would like. Alright, we're mounted again. Again, that process was just to run a 3/16 inch drill bit through each one of these neck holes in the body. So that just creates a little bit of clearance for the screw to pass through without biting into the body wood. Okay, I definitely have a couple of loose tuners as well. Well, even with the tightening of the tuners, I still have a couple that are kind of stiff. So I'm going to take the buttons off and drop a drop of oil onto the shaft of each one of those and then tighten the buttons back up. You might be wondering how much to tighten up these buttons, you know, the little screw on the end of the button. My answer to that is it's totally done by feel. I usually tighten them down all the way, test the tuner, see if it's too tight, and then back them off like 1/8 of a turn or so until I feel like they're in good shape. And that really they all need to be about the same amount of torque to turn each one, so that's what I'm shooting for. Just something that's comfortable. Off camera, I'll just tune this thing back up and then take off the capo. Alright, with everything tuned up, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. There's not much left to do to it. I took the opportunity to check out the intonation and the action, and both of those are actually pretty good. I can tell the nut is in good shape. Somebody appears to have worked on that before, and it's nicely rounded. Maybe the only thing that needs a little bit of adjustment is the pickup height, but it's not off by much, so I'm not going to touch it right now. Again, if you want to check out action or pickup height, I recommend that you get a ruler with 64ths on it. I use a small fret rocker that has a ruler built in, And again, I use 64ths because that's what the factory used for these, but these rulers have metric measurements on them as well. If I had one other complaint about this guitar, it's that the tremolo is not floating right now, it's just resting on the body. But some prefer it that way, so I'll probably just leave it alone for the moment. I really want to address this nick that's on the side of this guitar, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of touch-up. Now this Mexican Stratocaster body, or most modern Strat bodies for that matter, are some sort of a poly finish. Poly finishes are pretty durable and they don't react with much, so I'm going to apply a nail polish over this, and this nail polish is effectively nitrocellulose lacquer, but it's glossy and the body is glossy, and you can sand this nitro to be level with the poly, so I don't think you'll be able to notice it much when I'm done. The reason I like nail polish is it dries fast, and this thing probably cost me about $1. It was definitely under $2, so it's really cost effective. It comes in a ton of colors, and you can even mix some colors together to get some match, but black is black in this case, so I'm kind of lucking out. I'll try to get a picture of that for you once it dries, but there's really nothing special about this part of the repair. The other thing I want to address on this finish is the little dullness here in this spot, so I'm just going to go ahead and polish some things up before we wrap up. Okay, well that looks better, so let's do a quick test of the electronics. Alright, all I'm really concerned with in this test is whether or not the pots work, so let's just check out the volume knob and see if there's any scratchiness there. That sounds pretty good. I want to make sure that all the switch positions function. No scratchiness there. I want to check out the tone knobs and make sure they work appropriately. So the neck position one does change the neck tone. Middle position changes the middle tone, and of course there is no bridge tone control. Alright, that's going to do it for today's episode. I appreciate all the likes and all the comments. Thanks to those of you who have joined the Hacks Guitar Hobby Facebook group. It's cool hanging out there. Thanks for visiting my Amazon and eBay links. That really helps me out. You'll find all of that info in the description along with all the parts and tools in the episode. Thanks to all my subscribers, and I'll see you guys next time.